Today I want to go through some ideas for creating a go bag and for creating backgrounds in your book to be prepared. So being prepared to be creative is really important, and you're much more likely to engage in creativity if you have something that is already inspiring you. So we have our book that is full of all kinds of paper that is great paper, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't exactly inspire me to start working. So what I want to start with is just using gesso on some of the pages that we know we're going to be creating works of art on. So you have three options basically for gesso, and that is a regular gesso, which is white, and that's what you see mostly on canvases. You have a clear gesso, which basically does the same thing, except that it shows through whatever is underneath it. So that's really awesome if you want to do some wet mediums on some vintage paper, or some paper that wasn't meant for wet mediums, but you want to also see what is on that paper. So if it's vintage paper, for instance, you don't want to necessarily cover that up. You want to be able to use it. And I'm not sure if we have any vintage paper. So for instance, this. Now, I won't be gessoing this piece because I think I want to do some stitching on this one. But if I wanted to paint on it, I would coat this in clear gesso, and it would I would be able to do that. So there's also black gesso, and then one more ground. So these are considered grounds. So it's basically what is beneath what you're going to put on it. There is also something called a watercolor ground. So if you wanted to do watercolors on a canvas, you wouldn't be able to do that because the ground, the gesso that's on it, is for acrylics and oils, and it wouldn't absorb that watery medium. So you would use a watercolor ground on top of that canvas, and you'd put, a couple of coats, at least 2 to 3, and you would be able to watercolor on top of that canvas, and it would accept that overly watery medium. But like something like this it's just a scrapbook paper, but if I wanted to create a painting on it, I could by using a clear gesso, and I would still have this really beautiful design that is here. Like for instance, this, I wouldn't want that to go away, but I might want to create some other things, or even do collage, which collage isn't necessarily considered a wet medium, but glues, depending on what you're using, is kind of wet, so you can end up with warping and things like that. So as long as you're keeping your collage kind of on the drier side, then you don't have to worry about putting any kind of a gesso on something like that, unless you want to paint. So you wanted to paint a little crown on him or something like that, then you would need to put some sort of a gesso on here to accept that medium, and so that it doesn't ruin your paper and doesn't bleed, because paper tends to take wet things and bleed, where you won't have your really crisp edges anymore. So something like this, you could also add That's totally a stitching kind of a thing. Maybe I'll put some gesso on this one. So I'll show you the process of doing the clear gesso. I'm just going to put some kitchen paper under here. And I have Liquitex clear gesso. And I'm just going to kind of put it on. It's not rocket science. It is going to make your piece harder, stiffer. It basically gives it some tooth and some structure to a certain extent. But you can see that you can still see all of that beautiful stuff underneath. And I probably use mostly clear gesso. Might need a little bit for the edges if I want. This is another thing that you might want to gesso, just simply because, like, if you're going to use dry mediums on parchment paper, it's not a big deal. Even some ink pens, gel pens, things like that, it's okay. But if you want to paint or use inks like a calligraphy ink at all, they tend to bleed. So I think I may just go ahead and add some to this page as well. So I have a couple clear gessoed pages here. And I think that's awesome. Now I got curling and that's okay. I have some wax paper here, and I'm just going to put it in between these two pieces and maybe even fold it over. So parchment paper has it likes to curl in a big, big way. And I'm going to let that dry. Actually, I think I'm going to take out the paper towel. It is a little bit, yeah, maybe I'll go ahead and leave it in, because the gesso does go through the fabric a little bit. It's not a real heavy fabric, so, and I'm just gonna let that dry just like that. Now I have all of these little pieces. I think I would like to gesso one of my large canvas pieces in here. Now I could use white gesso or clear gesso for that. I'm not really sure at this point what I'm going to do on it. So I think I'm gonna stick with the clear, just in case, because I really love the color of this. I love the look of linen and canvas and that kind of really raw, natural kind of a thing. So I'm gonna leave that. I want to be able to see that. And I typically, and I know this isn't the right way to do it, and if you are a professional artist, you're probably gonna go, oh, why is she doing that? I only put on one coat. I know that when you buy canvases, they have 3 coats, I believe, of prime. They prime them 3 times with the gesso, and that's fine. I just don't choose to do that Just making sure that I'm getting all of those pieces, probably because of what I'm experiencing right now as I'm putting this on, that not every bit of this canvas is getting covered. So it's soaking into some of the areas and not getting a complete coverage. I'm sure that's why. So usually you'll put it on one direction, you let it dry, you go in the other direction, you let it dry, and then you go in the original direction again. And in that way, I believe you can ensure that you've covered up all of the little pinholes and things that inevitably happen when you are doing this. But I'm not that concerned about it, to be honest, about pinholes and that nature of the canvas. So I'm just gonna do that. And I'm gonna let that dry. I'm not gonna do any of the other ones at this time, just simply because I'm really not sure what's gonna go on them. It might end up being a stitched collage piece. So I could probably do maybe at least one more, because I have, I believe, 5 or 6 pieces in here of this raw canvas. So I could do at least one more, and I'm sure that would be fine. So I may do that, but for now, that is sufficient. And I'm also going to do probably all of these with gesso, white gesso, clear gesso, maybe a mixture of both. I might even do one with some black gesso. So actually, let's do a black gesso one right now. And I'm gonna stay clear of the edges. I want to leave an edge that I can tape down to a board. Oop. All right, so black gesso is, as the name says, black, very black. So it's not something that you would use often, I would think, unless this is the type of painting that you like to do. But I think that exploring the nature of it and its potential is something that everybody should experience. So I'm sure we'll do at least one this summer of something with some black gesso. Okay, so let's see what it looks like on the other side. See, it didn't go through. This is a really, well, this is an artist grade canvas, so just got it from Blick in a big, almost like a tarp. And I know people that have used tarp before as well. So another thing that you can do is to, on maybe some of your drawing papers, and I wouldn't do it on all of them. I mean, we do have plans for our drawing paper this summer, but I put a lot of the mixed media paper in here. And I think that it might be a lot of fun to do some either some jelly prints on here. So I have some handmade stamps here that I could kind of do a little bit of a pattern on some of my papers. Maybe an edge like that. Just a little bit, just to kind of get you, thinking about creating on this page. So if I opened up to this page, or I might be looking for something that I could write a poem about leaves on. And as I'm turning into my journal, I see something like this, and this might inspire me to, you know, add some other little drawings to it, or you know, it's breaking that blank page where you can use what's on there as a jumping off point, because sometimes the hardest part is just knowing where to begin. It's just getting started. So when you have pages that are already begun in some, even if it's just a really small way, you can find a lot more inspiration in something like that. And oh, it looks very seashore-y to me. So I might want to get it really watery and just kind of create some drips on my page. Okay, so that's another idea of something that you can do on your page. You don't have to do a lot. You don't have to get every page done, but it's nice for those times when you just don't know where to go. You don't know how to begin. You're not feeling very inspired. Having something to start with can be really, really nice. And again, it doesn't have to be a work of art all on its own. This is just something on there to get you going. So you can stamp, you can paint, you can collage something, just to have a background already working in your book. Even I'm going to set these aside. I'd like to talk a little bit about creating a go bag and how I've created mine. This is I got it from a garage sale. It is a travel bag, and actually it's been through the wash a few times, but these are really, really awesome to use for creative travel bags, because they have lots of different pockets and sections in them. So this one came with 3 pouches like this. They have little Velcro things. So 2 of them, there was 2 of these, they fit next to each other, and then there was a long one for putting in brushes and pencils and things like that. I don't know where it is right now, so, but how I've been utilizing mine lately is I've been keeping different types of implements in each of the little pocket things. So I have kind of more journaling type things in here. I have stamps and stamp pads and washi tape, things of that nature. I have a travel, these are just beautiful. I love them. I haven't used them a ton yet because they were a Mother's Day gift from my son. Gonna work on those and implementing them in some of my work. I also have a travel watercolor. This is De La Rowney. Has a really nice range and a small little brush here, plus some little wells where you could just add water to. I have little mini spray bottles. I have actually even smaller ones than that, but they're not in this kit, not right now. So I have some water brushes that have water in the reservoir. So if I want to do watercolors on the go and I don't have the ability to keep a jar of water near me or something like that, then these are really great for that. I have a travel Mod Podge mat, and that's a water-based, so it's a sealer and that kind of thing. I have a little mini hairspray, and this is an aerosol hairspray, so this is great for fixing charcoals and pastels and pencil drawings in a fix so that they don't smear. I have a little mini Swiss Army knife. I don't like to sharpen my pencils. I like to just shave them. And I also have a piece of sandpaper that I keep in for sharpening like charcoal pencils and things like that. So a lot of colored pencils and charcoal pencils. Regular pencils, you can use a pencil sharpener, but like Prismacolor colored pencils, they don't hold up well. They tend to splinter and break, so it's much better just to shave them with either a knife or use sandpaper or something like that. I keep gel pen for journaling, and you can also use it for drawing faces, because if you do it right away, you can move it around with a little bit of water, and it kind of gives you the impression of a watercolor painting. And all of my paints and things like that all fit up in here. This won't fit in here at the same time as everything else, but I like to sometimes keep this area open if I can only carry one thing, so that I can put a book in there. So I can fit some other things in here. I could adjust how I've got my things in, but I can even keep 2 books in here. Maybe that and that. And it all closes up. So this summer, if you make it to some garage sales, people are always trying to get rid of these things. And you might not like it isn't something that you would go out and buy for yourself to travel with maybe, but they make great go bags. Absolutely love this one. It's my favorite. It can get a little bit heavy, depending on what you're putting in it, but it's really nice to have something like this where you can just grab it off the coat rack on your way out the door, or wherever you keep your purse, keep it right next to it so that you grab that too. And when inspiration hits and you find something that you want to create, you have some basic supplies to get you going.